I'm going to be reading the first article in your social studies packet. It says U.S. history packet. The first one is called School in the 1800s. I don't have an electronic copy, so if you can pull your packet out and follow along as I read aloud. What you see on your screen right now is a chart. I thought I could modify this so that you could do a T-chart and instead of a paragraph and just answer the question at the bottom. So you can use the details that I have in my chart until you put it on your page. Okay, so if you have that in front of you, or you can pause this video and go get it, and then press play and follow along as I read aloud. School in the 1800s. Every fall, children across the United States complain about returning to school. Little do they know how easy they have it. Things were a lot tougher for our ancestors in the 1800s. Here's what it was like. A fireplace blazed in the winter. With no central heating, schoolhouses relied on fireplaces and later wood stoves to stay warm. Children brought logs with them to class and took turns starting the fire each morning. One-room schoolhouses were the norm. It's hard to imagine, but in the 1800s, a single teacher taught grades 1 through 8 in the same room. Rural areas were just too sparsely populated to support multiple classrooms, so towns built one-room schoolhouses about 20 by 30 feet large. Young kids, nicknamed abecedarians, sat in the front and older students in the back. They learned reading, writing, math, geography, and history. Teachers would call a group of students to the front of the classroom for their lesson, while other grades worked at their seats. Sometimes older kids helped teach the younger pupils. The academic year was a lot shorter. According to statistics from the U.S. Department of Education, the school year in 1869 to 70 was about 132 days long. Today it's more like 180, but most students only went about 78 days a year. The attendance rate was 59%, partly because kids were more likely to be sick since medicine was less advanced. Parents also kept them home to work on the farm, especially during harvest. Teachers were usually unmarried women. In the early part of the 19th century, most teachers were men since women were thought to belong at home. Westward expansion changed that. As the country's size and population grew, there was a serious shortage of good teachers. Calls went out for women to respond to this emergency in education. They responded in droves, but they were paid 40 to 60% of what male teachers earned. By the 1870s, a quarter of all American-born white women had been teachers at some point in their lives. Most left the profession once they married, often because they had no choice. Some school districts actually banned married women from being teachers. Students used slate instead of paper. Paper was expensive in the 1800s, so students wrote on their thin slabs of slate. They took notes with slate pencils made of clay. Paper was only used for penmanship lessons when kids dipped their quills in ink bottles and practiced their cursive. Textbooks were equally scarce. Students had to bring books from home, often borrowing used textbooks from older kids. Members of a class never had matching copies. Bad kids wore a dunce cap. With lots of kids crammed into a single room, it was important to maintain discipline. Punishments could be harsh. Misbehaving students were often publicly shamed. The teacher sat the naughty child at the front of the class and had him wear a paper cone-shaped hat, branded with the letter D for dunce, meaning idiot. The practice was common in both the United States and Europe. Charles Dickens even mentioned it in a description of an English schoolroom in his novel, The Old Curiosity Shop, published in 1841. Displayed on hooks upon the wall in all their terrors were the cane and ruler, and near them, on a small shelf of its own, the dunce's cap made of old newspapers and decorated with glaring wafers of the largest size. Other punishments include making a child hold heavy books, stand against a wall for extended periods of time, or receive lashes with a whip. And that's the end of the article. The directions say write a paragraph comparing school from the 1800s with school today. Which do you think was more effective and why? Would you like going to school back then? So if you can do a T-chart, some bullets from school in the 1800s. On the left side of my chart, I have children had to help heat their schools by bringing in logs. Teachers had to teach 8 grade levels in one room. Older students had to help younger students. Some stayed home to help their families on the farm, and students used slate instead of paper. You could add 2 more in that column. The other column for school today, I came up with the first bullet. We have more materials and supplies, books, pencils, paper. We attend school with peers that are the same grade. We have good attendance, and school is pretty important in our society. We do not publicly shame kids who misbehave. So you can add to the chart and then answer the question, and that's it for this social studies assignment. Remember, at the end of the week, you're going to take a picture of the assignments that you do and email them to the teacher. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this helped you with your social studies assignment for today.